You ready to jump in?
Ready.
All right.
1,000,000 years B.C. erupts on the screen with volcanic excitement. 1,000,000 years B.C. when the earth parted and the mountains fell. Primitive man and monstrous beasts fought each other to inherit the earth. Not since time began has the primitive scene been captured for the screen with such imaginative realism. Behold man 1,000,000 years B.C. Introducing the fabulous Raquel Welch, the sensational star discovery of this or any other year in 1,000,000 years B.C. See her as Loana the Fair One, who deserted her tribe and risked her life to follow Tumac of the Rock People. John Richardson as Tumac, as big and strong as the beasts he fought for survival. Nupondi the Wild One, whom no man could resist. See the fascinating, strange, and fearful creatures who roamed and ruled the earth 1,000,000 years B.C. The Brontosaurus, a moving mountain of flesh and bone. The pterodactyl, a flying reptile with giant teeth. The flesh-eating Allosaurus. The Triceratops, a horned dinosaur in battle with the savage Ceratosaurus. You will share the unending thrills and excitement of a world of primitive wonders, of primeval terror and savagery. You will indeed live in another world, in another time, as the centuries fall back to reveal the Earth 1,000,000 years B.C. Introducing the fabulous Raquel Welch as Loana the Fair One. John Richardson as Tumac.
Welcome back to Geek Channel 8. I'm Eric.
I'm Will.
I got my new monster manual in the mail.
Uh-oh.
As you recall from my previous negative reviews of the 2024 Player's Handbook and the 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide, I have to say the same thing about the 2024, now 2025 Monster Manual. Now, to be fair, I have barely cracked it. I've only thumbed through it. And there's a couple of things that I don't like about it. One, I miss the days when the Monster Manual was like an encyclopedia and it had like a little tiny like thumbnail sketch of the monster in the corner, and instead of these like half-page paintings, you know? Now, I get that the artwork is supposed to be a selling point, but I kind of like the hazy, anyone can imagine it any way they want kind of thing. The woodcuts, like look of like Dave Trampier's art that like made it look like it was actually a manual, like a medieval manual. It's like, we know this thing exists and this is like our version of what it might look like, you know?
It also took us many hours to just make this, so don't ask for anything more detailed.
Also, orcs are gone.
Sort of.
And orcs, to me, after dragons, because it's in the name, has got to be the most iconic adversaries in the game. I know there's been a lot of talk online. I have like ignored it, so I don't know what the conflict is here. I assume has to do with them calling them species instead of races now. But if that's the case, then why get rid of orcs? Because now you're no longer being racist, you're being speciesist, you know? Um, and it's just like Harlan Ellison used to say about like Star Trek. He's like, everybody says it's not racist. Of course it's racist. It's just the races were like Klingons and, you know.
Look, okay, this is okay. My the number one, I want to just, let's be clear, especially for those of you who don't play Dungeons and Dragons. This has been a folk game from the beginning. Folk as in like it's bottom up. What you do is what it is. It's not what they tell you it is. And even the very earliest creators did not agree on how to run the game and play the game. And that is one of the beauties of it. So if you want your orcs to stay monsters, keep them monsters. But the theory is, look, we've always had like human adversaries in the monster manual, but they're gonna be like they're guards or this or that. And the thing is that now the underlying theory is orcs is people, and since orcs is people, then you have an orc guard, just like you have a elf guard or a halfling guard. They don't have individual entries essentially, and you might actually like this. But you start out with, here's my guard. This is what a guard has, maybe, and then you throw some orc things on top of that. Because people is people, and then you add the race on as flavor. Now, if orcs is monsters, then it's orcs is the monsters. And you can do that. There's no one can stop you. You can do anything you want.
Yes, but what I think would be better, the way I would like to see it is the original monster manual did have people in it. It had bandits, it had berserkers, it had other kinds of humans. So what I would like to see is a section for the various races, or species now, like elves. Okay, here's the drow, here's the, here's humans, here's, here's Duragar or the dwarf, evil dwarves. It's like, okay, it's, their culture is something we consider evil because it's doesn't follow the same rules we do, kind of like when we were talking about cavemen in the last time, and have orcs in there too. So you would have like a place to draw on. Here are your orc guards. Here are your, if you choose to make these, and do that with all of them. Do that with gnomes and halflings.
I think you're absolutely right. One of the things we see here is that orcs only were given one culture because they were monster. They were considered to be, and people bemoan the loss of this. It's like, we need to have somebody where we see them and we know we can just kill them because all of them are evil. I'm like, yeah, that has a certain appeal to it. But there are demons in this, right? You got lots of demons. You can do that with demons. And of course and I'm like, make the demons the irredeemably evil creature because they're made out of evil, maybe. But if you want to have it be the orcs, that's also fine. But that's the thing. Orcs never had, I'm an orc, I'm a dark orc, and I'm a light orc. There's none of that. Though they did have the gray orcs who were slightly, let's not get into that. This is old people. But yeah.
So one way to view this is political correctness or something along those lines. But there may be a different reason, I think, for why orcs might not be in here anymore. And that is, there has been a long tradition, both due to lawsuits and due to choice, of trying to eliminate Tolkienisms from D&D. Because I think there's now 2 competing Tolkien fantasy role-playing tabletop games with Dungeons and Dragons. Famously, Gary Gygax, one of the creators of Dungeons and Dragons, said in Dragon Magazine many years ago that Tolkien wasn't a big influence on Dungeons and Dragons, and they couldn't print the response from the readers because there were so few of them that didn't include expletives. But he wasn't lying, because it wasn't a major influence on him. He was much more influenced by Poul Anderson Robert E. Howard and stuff like that. So if you look at the Appendix N, the infamous Appendix N of supplemental reading, you'll see those things emphasized more. I don't think Tolkien even appears in Appendix N. And he tried to clarify that, and people weren't having it. But the point is, I think they are girding themselves for a time when they may have to remove all of it. Famously, Ents became Treants, hobbits became halflings, you know. So I think there might be something else at work here where they're like, we got to start pulling this stuff out because eventually this could lead to a lawsuit. And we want to own this, you know?
The irony of that is that, for instance, Pathfinder, they did a remaster that distanced them from Dungeons and Dragons because they were like, all right, no, we don't want you to have a claim on our shit. So we'll have change names. We're getting rid of half elves. We're doing all this crazy shit. Actually, D&D get rid of half elves? I can't keep track because I don't care. Yeah, I mean, it's weird. I'm like, you can give me all the new stuff you want. I will still all use the old stuff that I want. I'm not beholden to you. So I'm actually more mad about stuff like, oh yeah, no, giant eagles, they're not beasts. No, they're something else. So you can't turn into one when you're a druid. That stuff pisses me off more.
I mean, the bottom line is, was it worth the 10-year wait for this monster manual? And I think it was not. It is very much as good or less good than the existing 2012 monster manual.
Yeah. Well, and we talked about this before. How often do you just pick a monster out of the monster manual and just play it, run it straight?
How often do I do that?
Yeah.
Never.
See? So, I mean, in a way, you're like, well, this basic cookbook is inadequate.
Yeah.
But that's because you've been cooking for years, bro. You don't need.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, even like, okay, I was talking with my nephew about this last night because we're talking about there's new stuff about the realms and Faerun and blah blah. The thing is, I realized growing up together, we played modules and stuff, but there was never we're playing in the realms and there's these other characters that other people made. Nah, we were the characters. We were the heroes or the ones who would fail, and it was your world, the one that Charity brought to the table.
I just have been recently running Dragons of Icespire Peak, which is the intro adventure for Dungeons and Dragons until just recently.
Yeah.
It had been for the past decade. And there's an encounter where they go to a dwarven archaeological site, and there are ochre jellies in there. Ochre jellies are pretty badass for first level characters to take on anyway, so I changed them to gray oozes, so that's change number 1. 2, when they get done with this encounter and then they're leaving the place, they're basically been hired by two dwarves to do this job, and then you get paid by the dwarves, you leave, and then as you're exiting the cavern and you're like leaving the area, you encounter some orcs and there's another battle there. I changed it so that they come out of the caverns, the dwarves are dead, and there's a guidon with like the bloody dagger on it, and like nearby are some sleeping orcs, and they have to sneak past them to get out or get into a fight with them. It's not the way it was written in the module. I think it's more dramatic that way, because why are the orcs taking over this area? Well, because the Dragon of Icespire Peak has driven them out, and there's another encounter with orcs later on in the story. So I'm tying 2 parts of the story together that weren't really tied together in the original module for the purpose of storytelling.
Allowed to do that?
Just stop it. Stop it. I'm giving people too much insight into me as a dungeon master. It's like, I don't take stuff off the shelf and use it directly, generally. I mean, why would you? I don't know.
I mean, I know we're way off topic or whatever now, but really, there's the beauty to the celebrity Dungeons and Dragons game, but there's also the danger that people think this is how it's done, right? It's done like this, and you need to do like this, or you're not doing it right. Whereas when we grew up, you always learned it from one person to the next, from one table to the next, and so you had, by default, all these different ideas of how it's supposed to be played, how characters are supposed to be built, what was important, blah blah blah. I discovered late on in life that we are a bunch of skeevy, like thieves world type players. We were usually sort of left hand of darkness, not necessarily good guys. But there were people who actually played as straight up heroes. Can you believe that? Like they're like heroic, like the law.
Well, it's weird because I'm in a party where most of the in a game that I'm a player in, they're mostly evil, and it's causing a lot of problems with my lawful good cleric. But
Ah,
her parents were killed by lycanthropes, and she was an orphan, and so like lycanthropes, they just got to die.
we're talking about this? No.
She's evolved to the point where she will allow people who have been infected with lycanthropy to like seek out a cure. But if they don't do that willingly, then they got to die too. You know, like
You're victims too. Oh wait, no, you like this? Oh, okay. Can't
but
trust.
before it was like if a party member got bitten by a were creature, I'm sorry, but you got to die. And so it led to some interesting PvP interactions. But yeah, so even my good characters are good in a very moralistic D&D sense. Like we're going to play lawful good, Captain Kirk lawful good. It's right. You know, it's like, this is the way it's going to be because we said so. You know, the church says this, therefore this is, you know.
Nice civilization you got here. I think I'm going to knock it over and impose my own values on you. Yeah.
Exactly. Which, let's admit it, that is the best trick.
It 100% is. It really is. And I mean, though, in fairness, and this is one of the reasons it, it had it had the very top science fiction writers of the day. Okay,
Yeah.
and sometimes they just wedge stories in there that had appeared somewhere else, and we're like, yeah, we're gonna wedge this into this because it was like the only thing going on TV for that. But that's one of the reasons why it was so good.
Someone else might play my hero differently. I play her like Batman, except instead of like her parents being killed by criminals, it's they were killed by lycanthropes. So
Oh,
therefore,
that's awesome.
lycanthropes are evil, and she's going to kill all lycanthropes. You know, but there are other people who might prefer the like Adam West Batman, where it's Robin, we must stop this evil. You know, it's like this diabolical plan. You know.
Yeah, no, and that's one of the great things because it's like you play it your way. Just side note, I love this. Watched the Blue Beetle, right, movie, which was just a straight ahead, almost by the numbers comic book movie, and I loved it. I thought it was great. And and they tied in the old Blue Beetle. They made that make sense and just there. But one of my favorite lines was like, oh yeah, he's like, so you're like Batman, and like the uncle character's like, Batman's a fascist, man.
All right.
I was like, what?
Let's jump into in today's film. It's from 1966, so a little bit of background on 1966. January 12th of 1966, Batman premieres on ABC TV. February 6th, I don't do birth dates on this show too often, but I'm doing it this time. In Great Sankey, Cheshire, UK, Rick Astley is born. Insert copyrighted music here. You know what it is.
I'll just have to roll with that.
March 1st, Soviet space probe Venera 3 crashes on Venus, becoming the first spacecraft to reach another planet's surface.
Wow, that's kick ass, actually.
April 30th, regular hovercraft service begins over the English Channel. It was discontinued in 2000.
Wow.
Yeah. May 28th of 1966, the It's a Small World ride opens at Disneyland. June 30th, the National Organization for Women now is founded in Washington, D.C. So, bunch of social change going on here. July 11th, the 1966 FIFA World Cup begins in England. August 29th, the Beatles conclude their U.S. tour with a concert at Candlestick Park in San Francisco. It's their last performance as a live touring band. September 8th, 1966, Star Trek premieres on U.S. TV. October 15th, Bobby Seale and Huey P. Newton found the Black Panther Party in the US. November 8th, Ronald Reagan is elected governor of California.
Mm.
And December 30th, 1 Million Years B.C. premieres in London.
London.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it was a British production, Hammer Films.
Oh.
The exterior scenes were filmed on Lanzarote and Tenerife in the Canary Islands. Again, I hope I pronounced that correctly. During the winter months, there's a moment in this where the shell people are attacked by a giant sea turtle, and the women refer to it as an archelon, which is the actual scientific name for the creature. So, yes, they were referring to it long before science had named it.
I mean, if you're, I need a made up name that no one will understand. Oh, wait, there you go.
Hammer originally offered the role of Luana to Ursula Andress, and she passed on the project due to other commitments and salary demands. So they started looking for a replacement, and they ultimately settled on Raquel Welch. She had just done another sci-fi sort of thing, Fantastic Voyage. She was under contract with Fox, who had the U.S. distribution rights to this film, so they lent her to Hammer for the production. And she was hesitant at first, but then she found out that there was going to be 6 to 8 weeks of filming in London. And this is during the swinging 60s in London. So she's like, oh, hell yeah. Famously in the film, she wears a bikini made of fur and hide. This is like a big deal. Like, this is such a cultural big deal. There's an entire Wikipedia page devoted to her fur bikini, right?
And you know what, though? Like, it's such a big deal that my kid, who's only 16, right? That my kid knew about it. Like, what? No, we're talking about, like, yeah, you want to watch this with us? What? Wait, you mean, is it that one? Is that one movie poster? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, it's huge. Just like,
yeah, the poster is really where it takes off, because that poster became a best-selling pinup and led to a cultural phenomenon. I mean, it's in the movie Shawshank Redemption, right? It's a plot point in Shawshank Redemption. Anyway, the film premiered on October 25th, 1966, limited at the Warner Theatre in London. Its general release in the UK was on December 30th, as we said. It debuted in the US on February 21st, 1967. And the US version was edited for a broader audience, and it lost about 9 minutes of footage. Some of the deleted scenes featured provocative dance by Martine Beswick, gruesome death for some of the ape men in the cave, and some exciting moments showcasing a young Allosaurus's attack on the Shell tribe.
what?
All the dinosaur models from this film still exist, and they weren't walled up in the walls of a studio or something like past films. Although the Ceratosaurus and the Triceratops were repurposed for the Valley of Gwangi in 1969 and transformed into Gwangi, the Allosaurus and the Styracosaurus. So they've been changed a little bit, but the models still exist.
I got a question. This is we talk about people being on loan, they're under contract all the time with old films. Does that happen anymore? Do people get under contract with a studio in the first place, and then do they get loaned out and stuff like that?
It's fairly rare. What you see more often is directors that have an exclusive multi-picture deal with a studio. So it's
Okay.
like some named director will get a 3-picture deal or 4-picture deal with a specific studio. But actors are more free agents now. It's not like they work exclusively under contract to a studio. I think that's because it's not really to their advantage to do that. Because they don't, they can't work for other studios. So it limits their revenue stream. On the other hand, for directors, it works in the opposite way, because I've got a guaranteed multi-picture deal here. So I'm going to get, 2 more movies out of this.
Yeah, I can see that. It's the parallels with like professional sports players, basketball players, football players. probably actually, I'm not even sure football players as much as basketball and baseball, or they do get traded, they have exclusive contracts, et cetera, et cetera. So that's still around for them, but you know, less so for for the actors and stuff. And sometimes you still hear about an actor getting a multi-picture deal, but usually it seems like in the context they're like they were stuck. They were required to make one more picture with this guy, so they like fine, I'll do this one, stuff like that.
That still happens with actors. Like someone like Tom Cruise will sign a multi-picture deal for a particular franchise. If we cast you in this, we want you to make at least X number of Mission Impossible films. Or, it's particularly, that is the only way they can do these big Marvel crossover franchises. Like, you need to appear as Iron Man 5 times, in 5 different movies,
Right.
or whatever. Otherwise, they would have to have change the actor with every single movie, and that works again to both parties' advantage. Like guaranteed income for the actor, guaranteed like stability for the studio.
Yeah, and I guess it really only happens when you get a big name. I feel like the old system, they would grab somebody young and put them under contract, and then they turn them into something, right? Whereas
Yeah.
now it's like okay, you've proven yourself a draw, so we'll offer you this deal because you now we think you're worth something. So different things. I was just
Yep.
curious because that's inside baseball stuff that and I have no idea about.
Well, before we get into this, let's talk about something you do know about. What are we going to eat?
All right.
Enjoy your evening to the fullest. How about some snowy, crisp, and crunchy popcorn? That's a fine way to relax. Just sit and munch contentedly while you enjoy the show. Bring enough popcorn back for the whole family. Everyone likes popcorn. And now, Mom and Dad want a cup of good, satisfying coffee. That's the kind we serve, full of flavor and satisfaction.
So, all right. To be clear, the movie we're watching now is a remake, right? So I don't want to redo the same food, but there were basically two foods that were featured in both versions. One, meat, pig, roasted over fire. We already did that one. This one, well, okay. The other thing is, it's like the feature is. I won't get into it too much, but it's soup. It's a big pot of soup. It's a giant pot of soup, and the important thing about this soup and why it's a thing is that everything that people gather goes into it, and then they share it back out equally. For everybody. So it's like, it's this communism thing, whatever. But all right, so in the wider world, there's the myth or the story of stone soup, sometimes also called nail soup, and it features a French soldier. I don't think we've done this before on the snacks, but I apologize if we have. But essentially, he's a soldier coming back from probably Napoleonic Wars. He does this thing where he's going into town and he's asking, people to, he knows people don't want to, they close their doors and like, we have no food. We have nothing for you. Go away. He's like, oh, no, that's fine. It's cool. It's cool. No, but, yeah, I got my own food, but like, can you loan me a pot? Okay. And they're like, okay, sure. Pot, whatever. Yeah. I'm just going to make a fire here. And so basically, long story short, he whips out this stone, says it's a magic stone, throws it in the pot, and starts cooking it, and then he starts talking mad crazy shit, like talking up like, oh my god, you smell that? It's gonna be ready anytime soon. And the people are like, what? There's nothing in it. I don't know, maybe he's got something going on there. And basically he talks them into everybody's like, well, if I put in some food, can I have some? He's like, yeah. So essentially he makes something from nothing. He turns a story into a meal for everybody and himself included. And then, the idea is he goes to the next town, he does the same thing. So that's why I'm using that analogy. Now, the other thing is because they didn't have a pot. This is not what they didn't have a pot. So the other thing you do to heat water, if you don't have a pot, maybe you just have a depression in the ground, you can't really build a fire underneath that, though I think they might show that in this. I don't know. But you can get your stones, hot in the fire, like blazing red hot in the fire, and toss them in the water. So all this leads back to stone soup. In the movies, the Shell tribe is all about fishing and gathering. They're not hunters really. They do spear fishing and they do gathering. So that's what goes into. So they'll have roots, they'll have stuff like that, and then they'll have fish. So to step back a minute, I'm not telling you to use a rock because I actually don't. I'm not even sure what would be a safe rock, so I'm not telling you that. Don't worry about that. But I if I want for this thing, this is what I want to do. I want to start with a fish you like, preferably one that's fatty, right? You want to start in the bottom of a pot. You start with your aromatics, onions, celery, things like that. Really, it's going to be a culturally specific thing for you. They wouldn't have had the refined roots there. So, and the roots were going to have to melt down. So you're not going to put like a classic like carrots. There's nothing that sweet exists. So, but an onion is pretty much going to be kind of like that, or garlic, something in that realm. And you can add greens. A mustard green would be perfect. Those are kind of rough and ready. So you can add that stuff and you get it all down. And then you would want to add your fish, and we all know fish cooks really quick, and you probably aren't going to want to have it that cooked. We're going to assume actually that our forebearers, even if they're fictional, we're smart enough to know this. So you cook your fish in your butter and your aromatics until it's done to your liking. You pull it out, let it rest. So that's now you have a base for your soup, and that's when I would start saying you're adding your water. If you have a broth, add that. And then you could add your long cooking roots and stuff like that. Perfect things would be like if you like turnips. If you like, I'm going to say, yeah, go ahead, put in the carrots here if you want. But let's just keep in mind, if we're trying to recreate this, we want like roots and leaves and stuff that's not that refined. It's going to be, ideally, if it has a bitterness to it, we have bred a lot of bitterness out of our food. But originally it's going to be more bitter, less sweet. And, the cooking made a huge difference. Being able to cook stuff makes calories available in a way that otherwise wouldn't be available. So essentially, add your stuff. You have a soup base, add things you think you're going to like. And then towards the end, I would take that fish back. If you like to eat fish skin, which is not me, but but if you like it, I would probably take the skin off and then like the little toast that on the side on the fire. But and then I would add my fish back in right before I served it. And to be classic with the movie, you're going to dish it out to everyone before we begin.
And now, on with the show.
The film is directed by Don Chaffee, but I mean, Raquel Welch, very important in this film. Ray Harryhausen's special effects, very important. And then the third component that I think brought the most to this is Wilkie Cooper, who was the director of photography. He just did some amazing location photography on the Canary Islands with nice use of lens filters. This is 26 years after the original version, but it looks way more modern. And their primitive world looks totally unique. There's no jungle or anything like that. It's just
Right.
this like rocky, like volcanic area with some exotic plants, but
It's very sparse.
it's sparse. It's very unique looking.
It reminded me of post-apocalyptic movies of the time, of Yawn.
Yep. I guess this is pre-apocalyptic. We have again the dark-haired rock tribe led by Akoba, and instead of a pig wearing a triceratops costume, they capture and kill a warthog at the very beginning. This is actually believable, more believable. I mean, for the early 40s, the pig triceratops was a clever use of a pig, but this thing looks like an actual warthog, and it looks like something primitive people might actually kill.
Yeah, and they were clever about it. They used aggravated God to chase one guy. I think that was actually our main hero, and then he jumps over the pit and the pig falls in the pit. But it's not over. Pig's still alive. And he gets the honor of killing it.
Yeah. The good thing about this film is, as far as I know, there's not a lot of animal cruelty going on in this. Everything is done like through cuts and, whatever, although there are real animals in it.
No dogs.
Nope. But not everything is stop motion either. There's stop motion dinosaurs and stuff, but there's also real animals. So Tumac and Akoba fight over the meat again, resulting in Tumac being banished to the desert, where we see our next real animal, the return of the giant iguana.
Yes.
And, it's just going nah, nah, nah at him, which is very strange. At one point it like catches his leg in its tongue and starts dragging him.
Oh yeah, he hits it with a rock. Oh yeah. Oh, let me just back up for a second. So the dynamics in the cave and the rock tribe are a little different this time around. Our hero and his brother, they're rivals. His father basically, bullies everybody and snatches food. Even though he already had his food. Of course, he had ate first. He wanted more, so he took it from Akiba, and he just took it from him, and he wasn't going to put up with that, so he got beat down and kicked out. So yeah, the dynamics are a little bit different, and if anything, there might be more brutal in some ways. But like this time, it was an old guy fell in the pit that they dug, and they left him. I mean, there's like, no, we actually dug that, and you fell in. We don't care. So very brutal. It felt like the zeitgeist. I mean, who knows how many movies had influenced this one, even though it is a direct remake. It could be a biker gang. I mean, just from the power dynamics. It actually smells like a biker gang, in terms of.
Yeah, and biker gang movies were popular at this time.
Yeah.
This is the height of the biker gang movie era. So anyway, he's banished to the desert. He like ends up in a number of encounters, one being the giant iguana. And then he eventually ends up collapsing on this remote beach. That's when Loana and the women of the fair-haired Shell tribe spot him. And there's a scene here where Raquel Welch comes out of the surf, and it is exactly like the Dr. No scene where Ursula Andress is coming out of the water. And I'm like, oh, I learned later that they had originally intended Ursula Andress for this part. So it's like, it is a blatant reference to Dr. No.
When something works, it's like, yeah, let's get that in our movie. Oh yeah.
Yep. And again, we have cave women who shave their legs and all of that. And Rocky's legs are some of the best ever. So I got to say that there are, in the history of cinema, there are more probably, this is debatable, it's a matter of taste. They're more beautiful women in terms of their face or whatever, but you would be hard pressed to find a better body than Rocky's. Like, she has probably one of the best bodies in the history of cinema.
Well, she is definitely legendary. And, I think I'm glad they did this. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
So anyway, they have to immediately rescue him from the, as we called it earlier, the Archelon, the giant sea turtle, which, unlike a bunch of the other things where they used actual animals, they didn't use a real sea turtle here, which probably wouldn't have been very safe or practical for the sea turtle.
Right.
They used a stop motion one, but it is pretty convincing.
I thought it was really good. I thought the interactions they did with it was great. The whole tribe comes out to help, and they just are fighting it. I noticed like there's a whole part where he's laying on the beach, he's still messed up, and Raquel's like holding him, and then some other girls trying to. She's like, "Get the hell out! No, get away! Get away! This is my man." Finders keepers. Once again, finders keepers. You find a man, he's yours. That's the deal.
Well, we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get further along here, but they take him to the Shell tribe village, and again, he discovers that they're more civilized than the Rock tribe.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the things that I thought was kind of interesting in this is there's a cave painting class. So all of those like cave paintings, I've always imagined like one lone crazy member of the tribe, like painting these pictures on the wall, and he's the artist of the tribe. No, there's like a class. There's like an entire class of kids at like learning how to paint animals on the cave wall.
Oh yeah, no, this tribe is very industrious. They're very, and what I like is that at one point he wakes up by himself and he just walks around like, what the crap? What the is this crap? He tastes the paint. He's like, that's no good. He's just because it's all this, all these innovations are just new to him. Interesting about this guy, this version of him, he is way more. He's pretty more empathetic from the beginning, I think.
Yeah. I did, Lon Chaney's version of Tumac is kind of a dick, and like,
Yeah.
but also, even more than that, this whole story is the exact same story, but it's more nuanced. There's a lot of little nuances to it that the other one didn't have. As we mentioned, the dynamics between brothers and stuff like that, and also the like little bits like tasting the paint and stuff like that. There's just a lot of more nuance to this film. Speaking of the Rock Tribe, back there, Sakana attempts to seize power by killing Akoba. But again, Akoba survives the attack, but he's no longer the leader. Sakana's new leader. The Shell Tribe, again, we have the same thing. Like he helps the kids get fruit off the tree by shaking it. And one girl that got left out there by the tree is there when an Allosaurus comes.
Yeah.
He kills the Allosaurus.
That's a pretty epic fight. I think that's pretty cool.
Their mix of live action and animated dinosaur stuff, like they pulled it off really good.
Yeah. I think what I like is that this, like, okay, so like they have spears. Again, they have superior technology, but the spears are not really quite doing the job. And our rock man is just like, he is up in it because he's, more savage and wild. And he jumps to it to save this girl. You vibe with him more. He's more like, he's a good guy. And his finishing move is really awesome. It's like, it's one of those great desperate, like I'm having a brawl and I'm just pull something out of my ass moves. And so that was really good. I love that. I love that fight. That was a really good one.
Yeah, it was a good fight. To compress time here, because if you listen to our previous episode, you know what happens next. Tumac wants the spear that he killed the Allosaurus with. It leads to a conflict with the guy that actually owns the spear.
Another good fight, actually.
Although in this one, he actually gives him the spear.
Yeah, now that's a great, when they finally are like, you gotta go. And he's like, I'm gonna go. And she's going with him. That guy gives him the spear. And the thing is, the entire time he's there, they make eyes and they have some kind of, he's like, I have some respect for you, versus vice versa, right? So it's pretty good that way. He's like, yeah, you're going out in the wilderness by yourself. You're gonna need this. I do have some respect for you because you have good qualities. So.
And it's not by himself, because of course Loana goes with him again.
Yeah.
So there's a number of encounters again on their trek back to the Rock Cave tribe. And here's where I got to break in with another like accidental accuracy here to some degree. So of course we know that the existence of humans and dinosaurs were separated by millions of years. And despite the fact that Ray Harryhausen himself said that he did not make 1 million years BC for professors who probably don't go see these kinds of movies anyway, it does have the accidentally correct science that we didn't think was correct at the time, but we now believe is correct, of coexisting human species. So there's another hominid that is more like ape-like that exists, that they encounter on the way back. I think that little detour is a little longer than it needed to be, but whatever. But what we also get on the way back is Dino Battle of the Week. Dino on Dino Battle of the Week #1.
Yes.
They witness an epic fight between a Triceratops and a Ceratosaurus.
What is notable about this fight?
Go for it.
Triceratops. Boom. All the way. Crush it.
The Ceratopsian wins, which not what you usually expect.
Usually, at the best they can hope for is a draw, but this time, crushes.
Yeah. Usually the carnivorous sauropod usually wins these things, but nope, not this time. Triceratops wins in an upset. We finally get back to the Rock Tribe cave where we have again our classic blonde versus brunette battle. And this really kicks that up a notch too.
Yeah.
So Tumac's current love interest, Luana, and his former lover, Nupandi, get into a fight. And apparently these two actresses really liked each other and didn't want stunt doubles used for this. They insisted that they catfight each other.
But okay, so for one thing, in this case, Luana is not as nice. She actually tried to take something from her, so she started this shit. And the other thing is, in the previous edition, Tubakto, he steps in to stop it pretty much. He doesn't do that here. He watches. It's like he's like,
Would you like honestly
see what happens? He's like, let me see my woman go that down. And you see pictures of the guys, and they're like, and it's like 100% like it's very of the time. And I don't remember where this came in because we mentioned it earlier because it was taken out of some of the American versions. But like as his brother took over, part of what happened they showed when they cut to that, there's a whole sequence where there's this wild ass dance with the guys in the cave are like they're like banging things together and she's dancing to the music, the primitive music, and there's like a part where she lays down. There's some signs that this is a religious ceremony, but it's all very titillating and very much like go
this
dance.
is Hammer, man. This is what Hammer does.
Yeah.
This is why we love Hammer films.
Crazy. And the thing is, they could have got, nowadays they would go all way further probably.
It's also worth mentioning that Martine Beswick plays Nupandi, and she is a two-time Bond girl. She was Zora in From Russia with Love, and then she was Paula in Thunderball.
Wow. She's got the chops,
This is the highlight. But I think we got to give this battle to the blonde. In this blonde versus brunette fight, the blonde is the clear winner.
And what I love is that, we have seen throughout both versions of the disease where Luana will hold him back from doing something brutal. And they're all cheering for her to finish her. They like give her a rock to finish. She's on top of her, and then she's like, ah! And she's like, but this is not how she was raised. And he steps in and is like, all right, leave her alone. Don't make her finish her. Don't do that. We're better than that now. We got new rules. So that was nice. It's like you said before, this has more nuance by far. Yeah.
So Sakana is somewhat resentful that Tumac and Luana attempt to incorporate the Shell Tribe ways into the Rock Tribe's culture.
He takes his people and splits, right?
Yep.
And they let him go. Yep.
Yep.
Which is, and he has spears now.
Yes. So now we have a faction. Then, while swimming, a pteranodon attacks and snatches Luana.
Yeah.
To take her back to the nest to feed her
I
offspring.
see that coming. I'm like, what are they going to do with this?
Which we saw in Valley of Gwanji, a similar thing. But this takes us to Dino on Dino Battle of the Week number 2.
Yes.
Dino Battle of the Week. Rhamphorhynchus intervenes, leading to a fight. Luana's dropped into the sea and manages to make it to shore. So the winner here in Pteranodon versus Rhamphorhynchus is Rhamphorhynchus.
If you think of it as these are parallels to or analogs to like today's flying predators, it's very common for one raptor to hijack another raptor's meal. That is like they're like, oh yeah, I could hunt for myself, or I could just jack you. As a matter of fact, it turns out the bald eagle American, it's very all about like hijack is way easier than fishing for myself. So I think that was a great pair. I mean, maybe accidental accuracy or just very good verite. But like when she drops in the ocean, she's hurt, and all our hero sees is that they're up there eating something. He's too late because he rushed to try to save her.
Yeah,
too late.
Skipping ahead, they're eventually reunited, and Sakana shows back up and leads a revolt against Akoba with his faction.
Yeah.
And Tumac, Ahot, Loana, and the other members of the Shell tribe join in the fight against Sakana.
It's an epic brawl. There's like rolling around, stabby stab. It's funny. Okay, so sometimes we make fun of old time fights and fight thing, and sometimes it's legit. Like a lot of the sword fights in older movies were terrible. If you want, in terms of that's not what a sword fight would look like, but it's really good fencing because we're all classically trained fencers. But like when it comes to brawls, they do a pretty good job because there's not like martial arts. It's just like people rolling on the ground and hitting each other. And so I thought that was really nice and fun. But what happens next, Eric?
The volcano erupts.
The volcano erupts.
Yes. Once again, the mandatory volcano eruption happens and kills indiscriminately members of both sides of this. And but the fight continues. Sakana is speared to death. Akoba is crushed by a falling rock. And then at the end of all this, Tumac, Loana, and the surviving members of the two tribes merge to create the new tribe, and they go off to find a new home with Tumac as the new leader.
Dun, dun. I think the special effects were good. I mean, it's Harryhausen, so not a surprise. I thought the fights were cool. There was more nuance. I like these movies. So here's the thing. We're doing dinosaur movies, right?
Yeah.
But these movies are not about the dinosaurs. They are about the interactions between the people. It's dramatic. This is an untapped fan. When was the last time we really got into this fantasy? I'm like, this makes me I want Game of Thrones, Million Years B.C. That's what I want.
For me, what it is it's the combination of the primitive humans having to survive both the elements and each other with very, very primitive tools and weapons.
Yeah.
It's the TNA. Again, I'll say it, like there's just like tons of exposed flesh in this.
I want to point out something. Ladies, these are some nice looking men. They are
shirtless men.
Yeah, shirtless, good and great shape. If you dig the 70s look, they had that 70s beard and everything. That's what and this is why there's so much potential here. I want them to turn this into a series. There's so many things you could do with this. I'm going to say, Eric, this is my highest praise for any movie is that I want to play this.
Yeah, I think that this is a neglected subgenre. Someone needs to bring this back.
I want them to do it, and I don't want them to explain shit. Don't explain anything, guys. Stop explaining stuff. Metachlorians did not make anything better. Stop explaining things.
Well, you know what they could do is Marvel has a lot of clout these days, or a lot of money. They could do a Savage Land thing with Kazar.
Oh, wow, yes.
They could totally do it. Will they? I don't know. But if I was in charge, I'd be like greenlighting that in a heartbeat.
I mean, you get the hard body flesh, you get the drama, you get the sex, you get the violence. You could have more magic. It didn't even have to work. It could be like, we believe in this shit. It doesn't matter. You could do
It's going to have more international appeal than a Captain America film.
right.
Right. So, like,
okay. Now I've been thinking about this a lot since I watched it. Eric, you can do so much with this. Instead of you could change what the love triangle is. When he gets to the new place, he can meet a guy who's like, dude, you are so fucking manly. I love it. We can, and then what I love about this is that you could do that. You could do whatever you want with the cast in terms of race, etc. And the thing is, you could make so many people angry, so many people happy. You could, and I would even do it by the episode. It's like, no, you're reinforcing these horrible ideas. It's like, yeah. And then over here, it's like, no, you're reinforcing these horrible ideas that I don't like. It's like, yeah. And you know what you're going to do? You're going to keep watching. I mean, it is so rich. I'm like, this is...
There's a lot that could be done with this.
Yes, 100%. And now, I am biased. I give a lot of weight to these movies when I feel like they paid something forward. Does it make any sense?
Yeah.
So I think that this was a remake, which was interestingly beat for beat the same, but it actually brought more to it, right? And I'm not just talking about the dancing, which was great, but like it brought more to it. Beat for beat, it was the same. Um, and I feel like it pushed it forward. And I'm like, I saw the potential the first one. I'm like, okay, I understand. I see some of this. I'm like, oh wait, they took another jump here. So yeah, very good, awesome.
I also give it a thumbs up. For most people out there, this is not going to be a date movie. You're not going to get someone raised on modern stuff who likes their streaming Netflix or Amazon Prime series to watch this. This is Saturday morning matinee fare. That's what it is. And so if you go into it with that mindset, you're going to love it. I mean, there's hardly any spoken language in it at all. It's again almost a silent film. You know, it's not a silent
Yeah.
film because there's all the sounds, the ambient sounds and the music and all of that, but there's not a lot of talking in it.
No. Well, another opportunity for the remakes, because I'm like, this has to happen. We have so much con language now where people have made constructed languages and they're really into it and good at it. If you did this movie or something like this as a series, you could have multiples of them and people would be just losing their minds. So yeah, but it's I'm sorry, I just wanted to throw that in there. I didn't think about before.
Okay. So I want to say like and subscribe. You can find us on every major podcasting platform. Uh, you know, our reruns also appear on YouTube if that's your platform of choice. You know, we are asking everybody to tell 2 people about the show this year. We are hoping to grow our audience some, and we don't advertise and we don't put advertising in the show either, at least not yet. We haven't done that. You know, we're in our 5th year and we've never done that. We don't have a Patreon. We don't raise money. You know, this is all just a labor of love. So we ask you to help us out by spreading the word about the show. You know, just get 2 other people this year to listen to the show. If you want to talk to us directly, you can send us an email at GC8podcast. That's letter G, letter C, number 8, podcast, all one word, at gmail.com. Until next time, this is Eric.
And this is Will.
Signing off.
Peace.
There's a big enough pie just with dinosaurs.
Oh my God, there is.